Hello, everyone. Welcome back to No Cap Space. Just when I thought the transfer portal had relatively calmed down, it felt like the biggest news had come and gone. Um, well, Lulu Kesson of Greenville News reports that Milaysia Fulwiley will be entering the transfer portal out of South Carolina going into her junior year. Wow. Um, I mean, we already knew that this has been the craziest year of the portal period already, no doubt. This has now leveled up to a different level of the talent that is in the portal. Um, wow. I mean, let's talk about. I mean, this is pretty much what we have. It's just the fact that she has entered. And so obviously, Milaysia Fulwiley has been such a hot topic of dialogue. I mean, between us, like here on No Cast Spaces, we've certainly talked about it a lot. I mean, I think just in general across women's basketball, Milaysia Fulwiley has been a major contention point of coming off the bench still. The shorter leash that Don Staley would generally give her, um, and to me, and again, this is no insider or anything. This is just what I imagine has kind of gone down here is that the addition of Tanaya Latson just was too much. That is my best guess. Look, it's obviously similar positions. You have Raven Johnson returning as well, and somebody was not going to get their due from whether it be a Milaysia, whether it be a Tessa. It felt inevitable. And I talked about in the Tanaya Latson video of my questions with this. And again, not that you would ever not take Tanaya Latson or that it's a bad fit inherently, but you just have several players that do similar things at similar heights, and so on and so forth, right? And instead of trying to kind of to wait and see what the answer was going to be from Don Staley, we now get Milaysia Fulwiley entering the portal. And I think that there's a couple ways that we could see this going, in the sense of what does a Milaysia want? I mean, obviously she has the brand deals, so in my head, I wouldn't imagine that NIL is a massive factor here. That's not what I am assuming. I am truly believing that this comes from a basketball side, from a playing time side, from maybe just feeling restricted. Just as a player, I mean, it's no secret that Milaysia Fulwiley's style is that of is a very creative style. Is a style that generally speaking, is at its best when it's free. Now, obviously, we've seen where mistakes are also made, but again, this is a player that, to me personally, I felt like there could have been better ways to allow her to go through those growing pains, and to, whether it be in against lesser opponents, whether it be in the blowouts, like where you just let Milaysia go out there and make mistakes and learn, and it's always felt like there has been such a highlight on Milaysia on this South Carolina team, from kind of all different angles. And again, like I mentioned, like I mean, we as in No Cap Space, like have certainly had the dialogues ourselves, right? So I'm not putting ourselves not in doing that. But whether it be on social media, whether it be I mean, she's such a massive star, and we've just barely seen glimpses. Truly, like we've seen some great, we've seen some bad, but ultimately, it feels like Milaysia Fulwiley hasn't been kind of given the foundation to set herself. Maybe the time to set that foundation at South Carolina, where you can find more consistency. But so thinking about where you might go, right? Like where to next? I'll tell you right now. I can't imagine any program telling Milaysia Fulwiley no. I mean, she has the potential to be. I mean, she already is really good, and so like the idea of what does option number one Milaysia Fulwiley look like, whether that be on a team that is maybe a caliber down from South Carolina, right? Or maybe is a team that has contended in but hasn't been able to kind of get fully over the hump, right? Um, I mean, it's hard to even directly pinpoint one. I mean, I'll tell you the very first one that came to mind was really kind of two, and honestly, were the two LA schools, USC and UCLA. Difference in what you're getting in either. But for USC, obviously, Juju Watkins out this season, you can kind of go and be that player there. Is kind of the vibe I would think you would be getting from USC. UCLA, we've seen the exodus, and we've seen the exodus from both of these teams of freshmen that have now left the program and seemingly UCLA certainly still has plenty of talent on that roster, but you're only like 6-7 deep, I think, right now. With Sienna coming in, I'm not sure directly off the top of my head, but like I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, I mean, you have Milaysia Fulwiley next to Lauren Betts, and you just have a completely different level of perimeter scoring. Because Kiki Rice has been very solid. But I don't know if she's the explosive scorer that Milaysia Fulwiley could potentially be. You look at the rest of their perimeter scoring right now, a lot of it, at least in the system of what we saw this past year, was being made into catch and shoot. It didn't feel like you had like a ton of players that were going out there and being able to get their own. And Milaysia Fulwiley is certainly a player that can go and get your own. And I also think and a credit to the development of South Carolina is the defense has gotten so much better. And Shawnee, I'm sure, will have plenty more to talk about when it comes to this, but this is just kind of the emergency. But Shawnee saw Milaysia in high school, and everything that I felt that Shawnee had kind of described as, okay, like you need to improve here, but like obviously the star caliber player is here. It's within this. I felt like we were seeing the improvement on all that. But again, the nature of playing at South Carolina and the way that Dawn's system runs and works is that you have to sacrifice. And I completely understand if Milaysia Fulwiley sees Tanaya Latson come in and is done sacrificing. I completely get that. You have your ring from last year. You can go and either kind of run your own establish your own program as number one. You can go and be a very, very pivotal and play extended minutes for a team that is, again, maybe like a UCLA that is like contending in that way. I could think Notre Dame could probably use a guard or two. Hell, I mean, I'm never going to rule out TCU at this point with what they've been able to accomplish. So I generally don't know where to next, because I think it just depends on what the goal is. But ultimately speaking, Milaysia Fulwiley going into your junior year, I completely understand this move. Again, you were supposed to kind of be next up. And when Tanaya Latson comes in, when Raven Johnson stays, that does not happen. Not in the way that you probably wanted it to. Even if you do enter the starting lineup. And I understand South Carolina is unique in that the minutes are so equal across the board that the starting lineup doesn't completely matter, but it still does. It does matter ultimately. And I mean, I'm not shocked in the reasoning and like, okay, if you told me Milaysia Fulwiley entered the portal, I could see X, Y, and Z reasons as to why she would enter the portal. But to actively see it, we interviewed Milaysia this past season, and knowing how much it seemed to matter to her that being from South Carolina and repping South Carolina and being the hometown kid that is the star player at South Carolina after seeing what Asia Wilson had done, that seemed to matter. And so I don't take this. So for that, I'm surprised, and I don't take this lightly about the goals and aspirations of Milaysia Fulwiley, the player. So I'm incredibly intrigued to see what happens next. I mean, again, this is a player that we have seen some of the most incredible flashes of any player throughout their first 2 years. But you compare it to a Juju, you compare it to a Hannah Hidalgo, like in that same time frame, we haven't seen a consistency, and frankly, we haven't seen the responsibility given to her that we've seen to those other top players that seem like they can go and lead a program. We've seen Madison Booker, we've seen an Addie Crooks, for example. You know, like we've seen these players from this class be responsible. And I think if I was to guess, again, this is no insight, but if I was to guess, Milaysia Fulwiley is ready to be responsible for a basketball team. It feels that she's ready for that, and feels that she is ready to take on the responsibility of being a full starter, of being the best player on a basketball team. And I'm very excited to see it. I mean, again, I'm still surprised. I'm still shocked, but I understand the reasoning, and I'm excited to see what happens next because Milaysia is simply fantastic. Again, having interviewed her, having watched her play, obviously, Milaysia is one of those ones, and now she's gonna go and get the chance to prove it. So, wow, not expecting to see this today. I literally I'm never like in a good position whenever breaking news breaks, of course, but we got back into the emergency room to film this. So thank y'all for tapping in. Again, WNBA season is right around the corner. We've kind of taken a couple of days here to exhale a little bit from the Final Four. It was a long weekend, but a very exciting weekend. Again, we're so thankful for all of that. So make sure you're tapped in because the WNBA season is right around the corner. It's literally knocking. And the WNBA draft is on Monday. We'll be live for that. So make sure you're subscribed here. You click the bell to be notified whenever we do go live. And woo, the portal keeps portaling. No cap space. I don't know. I was going to say it keeps no cap, but that, never mind, man. Website, YouTube, home field. Check out all the links down below. And I'll see you next time.